Now, this week, the Attorney General, Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Akuretenga-Ayeni, addressed the press. In fact, it was just a couple of days ago, giving us an update on Ken Ofori-Atta and then also Ernest Akore, that's his chief of staff. They are out of the jurisdiction. And he says, well, he has his office has submitted the documents for the extradition of Ken Ofori-Atta and Ernest Akore to the U.S. authorities. What happens after today, much of it is out of his control. And so we just have to wait. There are questions about, what could have been done within his control. And that's going to be another aspect of the conversation. But this is what the Attorney General said earlier in the week on the latest with Ken Ofori-Atta and the extradition request. Take a look.
You will recall that the Office of the Special Prosecutor investigated acts of corruption and corruption-related offenses by the former finance minister and his accomplices, and proceeded to file charges in the High Court of Justice against them. On November 19th, 2025, that is this year, my office received a formal request from the Office of the Special Prosecutor to initiate extradition proceedings for Kenneth Ofori-Atta and Ernest Daku Akore from the United States of America. Following a preliminary review, our International Cooperation Unit observed that certain aspects of the request require clarification and enhancements to align with the applicable legal and procedural requirements. We communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation to ensure completeness. On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided a requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised, thereby finalizing the extradition request packages. Subsequently, on December 10, 2025, my office transmitted the complete request to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for onward transmission to the competent authorities in the United States of America. That is, in this case, the Department of Justice of the United States. At this point, it is left to the American authorities, especially the judicial authorities, to make a determination on whether a sufficient basis exists for the two accused.
Well, that's the Attorney General. Gentlemen, please. Well, thank you. Now, the Attorney General giving us an update there, and he has indicated that, as was expected, and which is within the right of Ken Ofori-Atta, he has got top lawyers in the U.S., very experienced, to fight his extradition. And this is an update from the Attorney General as well. Let's take a listen to that.
I got to know that he has hired some of the top lawyers in the United States of America, very experienced lawyers, to, defend him. Now, I'm not afraid at all right? I am not afraid at all. But it means that there's going to be a fight in the federal courts in the U.S. If the district court says no, he will go to the circuit court, all right? If the circuit court says no, he's entitled to go to the U.S. Supreme Court to fight his case. So I cannot tell you that he will come tomorrow or he will come the next day, okay? And I'm just being honest. Accounting to the people means being explicit and truthful. So this is what...
That is the Attorney General being explicit and truthful. He says he cannot give a timeline to when Ken Ofori-Atta is going to come, because with this process, much of it is out of his control. And that's Abdullahi. As was expected, Ken Ofori-Atta is fighting his extradition. He's got the top lawyers. That's according to the Attorney General. Top lawyers, very experienced in the United States, to fight this extradition request that Ghana has just started as well. But before you come in, let me acknowledge the presence of Professor Bafo Ajimendua. He's a governance expert and former advisor on governance to the United Nations. Professor Bafwa Jimendua, good morning. Thank you for joining us. If you can unmute for me, please.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't hear you.
Yes, I said good morning and good morning to you. It's a pleasure for me to join the group.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Jas Abdullah, this is the latest on Ken Ofori-Atta.
That is so. My time-tested principle has always been that the decision of the current Attorney General to continuously update the people of Ghana is the sort of Attorney General that we need in this country. It is literally right to say that it is arguably the best that we need, to the extent that it keeps all of us informed and it enables us to participate in the national discourse and how matters of this nature are handled. Participatory democracy would involve that you are well informed of what is happening as a citizen, and so you can make your opinions known and contribute to national development. And so, to that extent, I commend the Attorney General for informing us of the events culminating into the issues involving the former finance minister. Having said that, my position has been that we have waited for far too long to get to this point. It's for me, it's quite sickening that, it's taken us a whole year of back and forth to get to this position. I think that by now, either the former finance minister should have been convicted if he indeed is guilty of the offenses, or the issues involving his office would have come to some level of closure so that we move on as a nation. We cannot spend a whole year now trying to get him back into this country and then spend another year or more to try and possibly take a decision as to whether to be convicted or not. But I'm not oblivious saying this of the fact that it is very difficult and time-consuming to conduct investigation into white-colored crimes. It is very time-consuming.
No, walk in the park. That's what
it's not something you can simply just wake up the next day and have all the evidence that you need in order to be able to file a charge against God, in court. Particularly when you look at the charges that have been filed, about 70 plus charges. 78, thank you. It's not a joke. The lawyers who even drafted this might have done a thorough work to be able to come up with that. But thinking about it, however, I was asking myself whether we couldn't have preferred lesser charges that would have been all-embracing.
What do you mean lesser charges?
Go for the bigger ones. There are always bigger charges that can secure you the highest conviction, rather than focusing on the minor ones, which may probably may not be misdemeanor, but possibly get you 3 years or 4 years. But if you can get charges that can get you 25 years or more, because most of the fraud and stealing cases, you can have up to 25 years and thereabout. And so, why wouldn't you focus on those ones? Unless, of course, admittedly, having looked at all the 78 charges, if all of them involve acts of stealing and of fraud or defrauding, then, of course, I have very little to contribute to that.
Corruption and corruption-related offenses being some of it, there's some money laundering in there somewhere.
Yeah,
well.
So, like I said, I haven't looked at everything, so I will not pretend to know it all. But my point is that if it is possible to look at the bigger ones in relative to the convictions, I would recommend that we adopt that approach rather than this one appears to me as fishing, so that you don't leave any stone unturned, and that for me it doesn't help. But of course, I'm not the prosecuting authority, so if this is what they believe is the right thing, let's go by it. But we should have had a closure on this subject, and that presents to me yet another question: how the United States government would readily commend the Republic of Ghana for always making our people available to be extradited, but they would not do the same when we need that.
You say they will not do the same.
Yeah, i.e. not give us our citizens who are within their jurisdiction.
But
the process is almost the process is almost done.
Hey.
The process is almost done. That's my point. Yet when the table turns, we do not get the same level of cooperation from the government of the United States.
If you talk
And
about
for me, cooperation by way of getting the people back here.
That follows a particular process. In fact,
of course, we know it follows a process.
The treaty, the 1931 treaty.
You don't think that we ours follows the process? Ours follows the same process. In fact, we have almost the same process. Or it's almost the same. In fact, almost all Commonwealth countries follow similar processes. You will need the central authority to accept your if you like, the entire docket relating to the person.
Yes.
And then you have to go to your court, local court, to accept and make a formal order to extradite the person before the entire process kicks in for the person to be sent out. So there are similar structures, similar procedures, maybe a little detail differences and all of that. But then again, I blame ourselves for some of these difficulties. You see, when it comes to the US fighting crime, they see it purely as crime. They do not see political or ethnic or any other sides of it. In our part of the world, everything has been politicized. When in fact we should be looking at the crime per se, we rather tend to look at it from the angle of political persecution. And I can say on authority that one of the arguments that would feature in the US court would be on this subject of political persecution. That would be the argument to be made.
Because it's actually one of the grounds under the treaty.
I have not seen
the treaty that
No, I'm not talking about the treaty. I'm talking about the argument Ofori-Atta will be making.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And it is the biggest argument.
As one of the conditions for extradition, that whether or not the subject of the extradition request is going to be, or there's a probability of political persecution if he is extradited. It's one of the conditions as well, and under Chapter 3 of the Treaty 1931 that he talks about.
So my point is that because we have turned crime into politics, chances are that this will be the biggest defense in the US court. And once that happens, the people of Ghana stand to lose gravely, because chances are that they will accept this, and this gets muddier when you look at how the discourse has been within the space here. Everybody talks about it from the MPP, NDC perspective, when in fact we should be looking at the commission of crime in itself, simply and pure and simple. And so the summary of my submission is that we as people should be, we should refrain at every point in time from making political crime or national issues such as this. We should refrain from adding politics and political angles to it, so that when people, and then look at it purely from what it is, when people are presented to court, I do not think that our courts are so gullible that when a person is brought there, we cannot see through to identify whether this one is witch hunting as against a real crime that ought to be fought and all of that. So if you look at it from that angle, if you treat people from that angle, if you make our fight against crime and corruption from this perspective, I think we'll be the ultimate winners. And now we have presented the Attorney General with one of the most difficult cases because of this. I just hope and pray that the Attorney General wins this battle and be able to bring Ken Ofori-Atta. But my question once again, as I keep asking on regular and daily basis, is this: why is Ken refusing to come answer to these charges? What is the problem? Jokes aside, the man said he was our father. And if your kids are accusing you of some wrongdoing, why can't you just come back and tell us that you have indeed not done what we accuse you of doing? More so when you have one of the best lawyers in Ghana to defend you. I find it very difficult. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm very naive about these matters. But I feel strongly that if indeed you are alleged to have committed a crime, the stature and nature of the man in issue, the man in question, he's not the person that you can easily politically persecute and get away with it, because he has a lot of he has the nature of the former president and his family, all these big guys. I do not think that they will simply sit back and watch their fellow being taken to the without any intervention. They will definitely intervene. In fact, just last week we heard of an intervention from the former president's office, which in fact he has come to deny. In fact, that indeed he has not talked to the current president about anything and all of that.
Regarding
the truth or otherwise of it, only God knows. I mean, I don't care. But my point is that he can never simply be treated like any ordinary person. And luckily for us, we have had the Attorney General assuring all of us that indeed the former finance minister will be treated in accordance with law like any other Ghanaian. And so that for me is reassuring. It is positive, and it is a kind of narrative that we need to put out there so that the people of the United States do not see us as going after our own, fellows for nothing really under their sleeves. So let's focus on getting the right things done. Let's bring Ofori-Atta to this country. Let's prosecute if he's innocent. Let's acquit him, and all of us have a closure on this subject.
But as to whether the Attorney General has any other alternative as against the point that he made about much of what's going to happen next being outside of his control, because he has just, started the extradition request. Now it is left to the U.S. authorities to tick the boxes under all the conditions captured within the extradition treaty 1931, which is still binding on us, to tick all the conditions. Even then, Ken Ofori-Atta, having now also gotten the best of lawyers, as he has indicated, top lawyers to fight this, and they have experience in doing so, it sends also another signal of what the Attorney General said. Professor Bafaj-Mendia, you raised concern about how all of this, the current structure of accountability in our judicial system also gives rooms for persons who are accused of corruption to take advantage of it. And this was a point that Daniel Domenovo made earlier. If we have to get serious in the fight against corruption, then some things must change in our current judicial architecture. What should we be looking at?
Well, thank you, and good morning to my good friends in there. First of all, it is true that at some point, there was a high level of distrust in the judiciary. And as we speak, there are still some suspicions about how our judiciary is managing its business. Of course, lately, certain decisions, and that is typical of Ghanaian politics. If it goes in your favor, normally you praise. If it goes against you, then of course you condemn. And that has been what we have subjected the judiciary to. But specifically to Ken's case, I think that so far the OSP and the Attorney General have followed the procedure, the legal procedure that must be followed if you are seeking extradition. So far as I know, they've done this. So if the Attorney General is saying that it's now in the hands of the U.S. office, then certainly he's right. But let us understand, then the U.S., if you want somebody extradited to you, it could be a long process because they give you the room to appeal, to make all kinds of cases. As I think my good friend, Dr. Abdullah is saying, they will be looking at the history of the judicial system here. And if Ken is going to plead that, look, this is going to be a political prosecution, because prior to my case, immediately after my case, there have been these incidents that seem to suggest strongly that they are seeking for me for political reasons. I hope that doesn't really fly. But I think what is important, a point that he made that I really appreciate, is why can Mr. Ofori-Atta, as a patriot who has managed our economy for 8 years, why is he afraid of his own country at this point? And I don't believe people are being thrown away into jail for no reasons in this country, because he, as a finance minister, must be accountable to the people in terms of how he managed the economy. It's as simple as that. But if he thinks strongly that his own country he cannot feel safe in his own country, then he has to really give the evidence to the Americans. So I guess what I'm saying is that if we become public officials and we are incapable of being accountable to our own people because we feel that we may have done something wrong, because I believe strongly if Ken does not feel that he has done something wrong, then I cannot understand why he's afraid to come back his own people to face these charges. And if he's gotten good lawyers, but I'm afraid for all kinds of reasons, maybe medical, as we are told at times, and his own sense of insecurity, if he comes back, he's going to fight this as much as he can. As we are told, he's gotten perhaps the best lawyers, or among the best lawyers in the US. So corruption, coming back to your original question, your point, corruption is not institutions that we create. I appreciate the work of the OSP, the Attorney General, and the others. But ultimately, corruption can be stemmed if the values of society changes. At the moment, I'm afraid we have lost some core values that will guide our behavior, our social behavior, our relationships, and many others. If we do not find a way to resuscitate those old cherished values, that's what I'm talking about, values. Integrity. That is the bottom line, because corruption, by the way, is not just the politicians, as all of us know. At the lowest levels, you find, I came through the airport a few days ago. Well, the lady was quite gentle about it, though. But he did ask, oh, it's Christmas time, so what do you give me? Well, Christmas. I can't fall her. Of course, I didn't give her anything. But these are the subtleties of behavior, because if you have self-respect and integrity, you're not going to ask a stranger to give you a Christmas present. So I guess my point here is that our biggest challenge is how we get our mindset changed. And I think as President Mahama is embarking on the resetting of the country, mindset should be one of the key issues. And how we introduce an educational system that develops the sense and respect for integrity in our young people. Because otherwise, we will create all kinds of institutions we want. We can create all the laws. And at times, even people are afraid that as much as we need lawyers in our country, people are afraid that, and I've heard people say that the lawyers could be part of the problem, because they know the law, they know the loopholes, and even if somebody is clearly corrupt and on technical legal grounds, you get him escape, then we're not going forward. So I guess my point is that in addition to everything we need to be practical in terms of laws and institutions and regulations and all, we also have to be serious about helping to develop a new mindset based on values that are rocked in integrity.
In integrity, that particular word is what then dovetails into the question you asked as to if Ken Ofori-Atta believes that he hasn't done anything wrong, why is he afraid to come back home to his country? Now, this is where, Dr. Zato, if that's the case, why is he afraid to come back to the country?
Oh, okay.
If he hasn't done anything wrong, if he believes so.
Thank you very much. The simple answer, I don't know. I don't know Ken. I've never met Ken. I've never seen. I don't know. The closest I've seen Ken is on TV. So there are certain things that are important. And thank you, Prof, for excellent listening. I am genuinely and sincerely afraid and scared that the way the AG and the OSP office is handling this Ken case, it may end up being like oral. It may all end up just being a very lost case. And I'm hoping it doesn't get it.
What's a very lost case?
No.
I'm saying I'm afraid.
He's my brother.
He allows me.
No,
He allows me. Justice is allowed. He's allowed. Solomon is not allowed. Fable is not allowed. Very discrimination. So I'm afraid that the way they are handling both of them, because I see a lot of complicity in what is happening here. My brother Martin has always thought that one of the first time he got a case with OSP is that he allowed Ken to leave. Yes, he's legitimate in saying that. I agree with that. But then the other question then I also ask is that the Attorney General knew he alone had the power to apply for extradition. Probably he knew that. Why did he also wait until December to apply for an extradition? I see some complicity there. Both are complicit. Why now?
Okay.
Why now? Because the question I'm asking is that even if this guy was handling it, and there's a difference between independent and collaboration. Independent bodies collaborate. In fact, sometimes to be an effective independent body, we call it public arm's length organizations, they have to collaborate to survive. So if you are Attorney General, I'm not saying dictate to OSP that do this, no. But if you know the law, and as you are the custodian of it right now, and you know that you alone or you have a bigger power to call for an extradition, if the guy is not doing it, did you reach out? Because see, there was one time there was some quibbling between the two of us.
I actually asked there was a question that I asked the Deputy Attorney General. And because extradition requests cannot be done in oblivion, he requested the docket from the OSP. It took quite a while. And the Deputy Attorney General came publicly to let us even know that they had requested information from the OSP and it wasn't coming. So that is just to answer the question.
So for me, so if it's taking 1 year, my point is that no matter how the administrative process works, it shouldn't take 1 full year for us to extradite somebody that we believe strongly has some serious questions to answer. That aspect, it talks about some inefficiency and ineffectiveness, and it doesn't help us. So please, whatever it was, to wait for 1 full year to be asking for this, I find it very problematic. Yes, you see, organizational inertia and organizations can give excuses. Some of them may be legitimate, others are not. But for both officers, for these two powerful officers to sit down and then only wait until now to ask for this is problematic. 2, since this government has come to power, they've done very well in their collaboration with the FBI and law enforcement agencies in the United States. And it has led to, they have sent about 1 or 2 people.
Am I mistaken to believe that this is the first time I'm hearing you praise this government?
No.
That's what I'm asking.
I'm a big fan of the Big Push. I said it here. I really love Big Push.
Yes.
I want to see it, and I've said that. And I've also said that the government is responsible for some of the economic decisions they made.
Thank you.
But that 24-hour is a scam and others. Okay, let me come back. The government has extradited some Ghanaians already to the United States.
Absolutely.
And they were working.
9.
Exactly, and they were working with the FBI to collect Shatawole's car, which I don't think they should collect that car. The point here is, why didn't they make a request for the repatriation of Sedinam Tamaklu, who has actually been convicted of a crime? You have a woman there who has been convicted. In this case, you are not saying bring her back, let me prosecute her. No. The Court of Competent Decision has found her guilty. Now the Americans are saying, send us this man to prosecute the person. I think it should be a very easy, straightforward cut-off negotiation. Listen, hey, we've given you 1, 2 people. Now also return the good faith. Show us good faith. The next person you want, put setting up on the flight. We also put this man on the flight. If you put setting on the flight, United Airlines in Washington, D.C., and we also put this person on the flight in Kotoka here, they will land at the same time. The inability or unwillingness of this government to exercise that option smacks of a certain level of cover-up or a certain level of unwillingness to bring that woman down. And for me, it cuts to the core of all this things that are happening. It looks like all this things happen as shenanigans and it's acceptance. Because look, right now, there's another person they're asking for. Tracy or what, the guy they are looking for now. The Americans are looking for somebody now.
Yes.
Abu Trika. Is he still in Ghana?
Yeah.
The Attorney General, why can't tomorrow the Attorney General come and say, yes, we will put this Trika online if and only if you also at least, either you send us Ken or you send us Sadinam. For the sake of accountability, for the sake of everything good and sanctity, why can't we trade him for one of these people?
Okay, so the Attorney General was asked this question.
Yes.
He gave an answer.
Yes.
I want you to listen to the
Thank you, I'll listen to it.
Good. Let's take a listen to the Attorney General on this matter of, okay, if Abu Trika is going to be extradited, then he should leverage that and ask for some collaboration from the U.S. authorities to also get Ken Ofori-Atta back into the country. He referenced this same 1931 treaty and the conditions therein. Take a look.
Documentation to ensure completeness On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided the requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised. Then we communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation to ensure completeness. On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided the requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised. Then we communicated these observations to the office. You will recall that the Office of the Special Prosecutor investigated acts of corruption and corruption-related offenses by the former finance minister and his accomplices and proceeded to file charges in the High Court of Justice against them. On November 19th, 2025, that is this year, my office received a formal request from the Office of the Special Prosecutor to initiate extradition proceedings for Ken Ofori-Atta and Ernest Darko Akore from the United States of America. Following a preliminary review, our International Cooperation Unit observed that certain aspects of the request required clarification and enhancements to align with the applicable legal and procedural requirements. We communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation.
Entire process and how this has been over the period. Dr. Zato?
I'm saying that. So whatever it is, even the laws, because they didn't know about the law in November. They knew about the law or whatever the process was known in January, in February, in March, in April, in May. And if something of such magnitude, you already know it, you can expedite it. So my question is that, yes, whether you are lost or no. But the question is whether it is there.
In fairness, Doc, the differences was with the format that the AG wanted the docket to be. The OSP presented the docket in a particular format.
Yes.
But the AG wanted it in another way.
So
these were the
format alone took 1 full year. That's
it was important.
I'm just saying it's not important. No.
And
Justice, okay, you've done it. Let me go ahead.
Okay, very well.
Format is important. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if format alone takes 1 full year, then there's I see administrative inertia and effectiveness. That's my point. But this Tamaklo case, I'm saying that again, right now, it's not too late. In this particular, it's not too late. The man is here. The guy they want is here. You can bargain, because you see, sometimes it's international issue. You can draw a hard bargain. That's what I'm saying. Again, we are not. This woman cannot say, "Oh, if I go to Ghana, they won't treat me fairly well." You've already been convicted. This woman cannot say, "I'm afraid of my shadow in Ghana." No, you've been convicted. And also to add to the AG's negotiation, he can make the case that, look, you committed these crimes when the NDC was in power. Your political opponents were the NPP. So maybe you were afraid that if the NPP got you the multitude, NPP is out of power. NDC is back to you. The people who appointed you then are here. Some of them are actually still the appointed authority. So my point is that if the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana goes ahead to send this young man there, would that at least bring him back one of the two people we need, either Sedinam or Ken, he would have been doing this nation a great disservice.
Okay.
If he goes ahead and does it, I'm saying the man is still here. We are not in a hurry. You can put him in jail. You can put him wherever. Don't send this man and receive nothing and empty-handed. If you're sending him, send both of them. If you don't do that, you would have failed this country, and we have failed this country in a very, 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 very big way.
Manasseh Azore Awoni is an investigative journalist. He's also joining us on Zoom on this particular matter as well, because he's done quite some work with regard to this SML, which is a subject of investigation as well as the prosecution against or of Ken Ofori-Atta. In fact, it's in that case that you have the 78 charges and others slapped on him and Ernest Akore. Manasseh is joining us.
Manasseh, the US that they will not extradite a police officer because of that. So we can use this as an example. Send this person. Also send this person.
Hold on. Manasseh, can you unmute for me? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And Mr. Lomon, also, this is what the Attorney General has given to us in terms of the update. What is of issue is whether the days after this particular request for extradition of Ken Ofori-Atta should be left solely to the discretion and the period that the U.S. authorities will work on, because that's what he says. He says much of it is outside of his control. So there are no timelines. We can't even tell when it's going to come. Professor Bafo-Adjumandua, based on his experience and knowledge of this extradition processes, it can take quite a while. And so it appears we may have to wait for a long time with Ken Ofori-Atta hiring top lawyers to fight this.
There is no top lawyer that can defend a criminal and succeed.
But you can't actually call him a criminal.
No, I'm just, I've not said he's a criminal.
You are not referencing, this statement is not in direct reference to
No. If it is reference, I'll say it.
Okay,
right. But the point is that if you have stolen, you have stolen. If the country knows that Mr. ABCD has stolen and you have caught him red-handed, no amount of advocacy from a lawyer will save the situation if truth will prevail. If the government does not push, they must push the United States of America to do what is right. We cannot be saying that someone is sitting on our billions and you hide under the cover of laws in the US and say that he must remain there while these twinkle latest Abu Trika and go are only taking under 10 million, you come and quickly take them. No. But you see, Alfred, why we are where we are today is that our legislative arm has disappointed this country.
What do you mean?
The parliament of the last administration, the 7th and the 8th parliament, we must heap all the blames on them for not defending the integrity of this country. Ken Ofori-Atta, are you surprised with it? With what is happening? In 1999, 1998, the Obotan Development Limited scandal, that criminality, that took away $2.4 million from Snitch. Everyone who mattered in Ghana's politics knew of that. Some of us in 2017, when he was going for vetting, we petitioned Parliament that do not approve this man because SFO investigation has revealed that he has to be prosecuted for swindling the whole state institution.
You reference which SFO report?
SFO report, I'll get you the report. I mean, SFO did a comprehensive report on the Obotan Development Limited. When they created the impression that they were going to put up assets. Here, this, your...
So what was the response of Parliament's Appointments Committee based on this?
They wouldn't even have courtesy to respond to you. They did not ask a single question on that matter. They approved him to be your Minister of Finance. That came, we thought that the MPP had an overwhelming majority then, so they could pass through. Then, thankfully, the Ghanaians did not do us any evil. They gave us a hung parliament. And here is why I come to the National Democratic Congress. They gave us a hung parliament in 2020. 2021, we went back and told them that do not approve Ken Ofori-Atta for he would destroy this country. At that time, I was in the MPP. Interestingly, the man was able to defer his vetting. He went and stayed in the US and they told him that he was sick. The same thing he's doing today. And refused to attend the vetting on time. Interesting, Parliament, overwhelmingly from both sides. They approved of his nomination. So if you had an issue of Obotan having swindled the entire country, and you allow him to get away with it.
You make available that report.
I will make it available. There's everywhere, SFO everywhere. You think he would not have, he wouldn't have been emboldened to swindle the entire country in all the scandals we are discussing? You ask, ask a simple question. Prof?
It's a matter of investigation.
Which one?
As to whether he has swindled or not.
You see?
Is it not?
The Attorney General,
that's why I'm saying that the Attorney General himself, having said this, to the extent that this is a matter in issue, you can't make such a conclusive statement.
The thing is that when the Attorney General goes to court or the OSP goes to court, they do not say alleged. They say the man has stolen. That's what I go with.
They are charging him
They have charged him
And they
for
have
stealing.
to prove beyond
So
reasonable
me,
doubt.
you see, my tax pays the Attorney General, he pays the OSP. He said he has stolen.
So the charge,
Eh?
which is
The
subject
charge says he has stolen. That is what I'm going with.
So I'm not arguing with you.
Yes.
I'm only telling you that there's a charge.
Yes.
Which has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt.
I don't have a problem,
So
but
you don't have to make conclusive.
no, the man says the charge, the charge. So what I'm saying is that if we had dealt with Obotan case constructively and seriously, he wouldn't have become a finance minister, let alone to dissipate, lead, cause. The very reason he's in the United States must be the reason he must be in Ghana. He said he's sick. He's attending Mayo Clinic. What investment did he make in infrastructure, in terms of health infrastructure, so that the ordinary Ghanaian, when he's sick, he can also receive such treatments? He has our money. He was controlling affairs. So he has the luxury of attending expensive health centers. What about the ordinary Ghanaian? Now, on the 24th of January 2025, the OSP told us that he has officially notified Ken Ofori-Atta that he was under investigation on 5 different cases. Remember this, one out of the 5. He spoke of the PDS, he spoke of the National Cathedral and so on. So this is one aspect of it. Now, on the 31st of January, the lawyers in this country, sometime in fact that you are doing your advocacy, you must also have the country at heart.
What do you mean by
What did his lawyers say? The lawyers came to tell us that he was out of the jurisdiction, he was never going to come back. And that they were ready to be answering whatever questions the OSP had. You were going to answer questions bordering on criminality. Were you the ones that were the finance ministers? To have told the entire country that you were ready to answer questions.
But that's not wrong.
What is wrong about if you are being charged on criminal matters, you will go and answer?
Are you faulting his lawyers for doing their job?
Now listen, I'm giving you chronology of events.
To do.
Now, when the OSP said on the 5th of February that look, we will not accept this claim, they quickly introduced a letter from Mayo Clinic, fake one as such. Fake one as such.
It was proven to be fake.
Everything about that document was fake.
Did you write to Mayo Clinic? And
when you send them email, nobody answers. And I'm saying it's fake.
Because they didn't respond.
Nobody had, look, that letter they brought was never addressed to any governmental agency. So whom were they writing to? All of a sudden, that letter popped up. That letter, they came to tell us that Ken Ofori-Atta was going to come to this country on the 2nd of June. On the 2nd of June. A federal rather even went to court. Said in Parliament that he was going to come in May. The OSP said 2nd of June, we will expect him. That was when they started playing games with us. I've told you that if we are not going to be serious as a country, these people will swindle us. So Ken Ofori-Atta is never going to come today, it's never going to come tomorrow. What it is that he has accepted that indeed he is sitting on our money. I won't come with the money. That's what he's telling us.
Well, you see,
that's what he's telling us.
And that is the point where Manasseh earlier when we spoke, Manasseh, I'm going to bring you in, but I just wanted Dr. Zato to know this, that you see, when the Attorney General was asked the question of this extradition, what he referenced as reciprocal extradition, that you have this person, I need this person, so bring this other person. That answer, we're going to pull up the video for you. But his response was quite clear, that they have made an application both for Ken Ofori-Atta, and not just him alone, and Sedinam Tamaklo as well. Okay, so that process is in place. You want them to now say that because you need Abutrika, bring one of the two. It is not within the domain of the Attorney General, he says, to, as it were, make that particular demand because there's a treaty that outlines exactly what has to be done.
Seriously, why not?
They Sedinam Tamaklo and also Ken Ofori-Atta have both been the subjects of a request for extradition. That is what the Attorney General gave us in that update. Manasseh, if the Attorney General says that what happens after today is not within his control, are there other alternatives that could be looked at in getting Ken Ofori-Atta to come and answer questions and not just leave it to as long as this extradition process will take, which we are learning that it will take quite a while, especially because of Ken Ofori-Atta exercising his rights to get top lawyers to fight this?
Well, thank you very much. And I think when some of us, myself and Mr. Martin Kwebu, were concerned about certain delays, even in starting the investigation, some people wanted us to just say, well, the process has finally finished. So what is your point in all of this? If certain actions perhaps were taken earlier, some of these things would have been avoided. But having said that, it is often very difficult, even in this country. And I'm making a general example that the petty thieves are very easy to deal with. The grand thieves are difficult to deal with. If someone steals a tuber of yam, within a week, we read news that they are jailed 5 years or a number of months. But if somebody steals $5 billion belonging to the state, it takes forever, even if they're in the country, because they have the resources to be able to frustrate the system, to hire the best of lawyers, and do everything they can to. Sometimes it even goes beyond the legal. Some even have international connections that they pull strings to defend them in this situation. So the Attorney General is partly correct, but the part I don't agree completely with him is to suggest that, well, it is out of our hands. I know, I'm not an expert, but I know that beyond the legal issues, there are also some international relations issues, how Ghana relates with the US. There are many things that go on behind the scenes. And if anybody follows immigration issues in the US these days, there are students with valid visas who have, for one reason or the other, been refused entry while they are coming back. Some have even been permanent residents in the US. And sometimes when you read the reports, the response from the government is that, look, you don't have the right to be in the US. It is a privilege. And so we have had reports of certain people being deported who have permanent US citizenship and all of that. The point I'm trying to make is that beyond the law, there are other means through which some of these bilateral relations can be, or issues can be conducted behind the scenes. Some diplomatic pressures can be brought to bear. Some people are fighting back home here that Ghana has accepted some deportees to West Africa without following the law and all of that. Of course, a number of countries have also been put on certain travel restrictions to the US. Ghana has been taken off. So there are many trade-offs that go on behind the scenes that we do not know. But I think that if the state of Ghana is very committed, the Attorney General at this point should go beyond what has been done. It is a bit disturbing to hear, quoting the Attorney General, that the office received a formal request for extradition on the 19th of November. This is almost a year after Ken Ofori-Atta had left. And of course, those of us who pursued this case and petitioned the OSP know that, as Dr. Zato is saying, why should it take a year? And I hear my friend Justice Abdullah talking about formalities. The main point is, which I made when these controversies emerged, was that at the time Ken was leaving, there was no investigation being done. So the investigation has now completed. It is delayed. And if we are requesting it now, it will take some time. And if I do not want to even talk like a doomsday prophet, it is possible that this Attorney General would finish his tenure without Ken coming back if all these legal dribblings are to be exhausted and all of that. But the government of the Republic of Ghana may need to just say, well, we have done a request, so let's sit down. If that happens, we may not likely get any response soon, but we have other trade-offs that we are currently engaged in with the United States, which I think all of those ones should be triggered. And by the 14th of February 2026, Ken Ofori-Atta's US visa will have expired. He will be vulnerable. And within that period, anything can happen. So the point is that the Attorney General should not just say we have done our part. The government of Ghana shouldn't say we have written. Normally, even when we write letters here in our country and you don't follow up, someone may leave it somewhere. So much has to be done to ensure that Ken comes back to answer for the pain he's put people through. If you were at the Ministry of Finance and you would wake up and see people who had served the nation diligently, gone on retirement and could not afford medications because their bonds and investments were locked. And these were locked because the state borrowed in our name, dissipated those funds, got us into so much debt, and everybody was suffering. As we speak, from time to time, I have people who tell me even Ken's own data bank, they have investment there that they cannot get as and when they need it. And all of this mess has been supervised by someone who would see old men crying, but still have the courage to do deals such as SML. And I think we need to bring such a person back to the country to face a trial, just like others are doing. Those who are here are not dead. Nobody has put them in Sawam without trial. So I see no reason why he should be running away.
Lawyer Martin Kwebo says the citizens' power is one of the alternatives that can be exercised in this regard. He's talking about demonstrations, peaceful protests, to submit a petition to the U.S. Embassy, for instance, and is that a potent tool to deploy? And this is a question I'll ask you, Amaliba, as well. Yes, Manasseh.
Yes, it is part of the pressure. One thing I've realized is that in any society that the government takes people seriously, the people who are in charge of affairs are not just angels. The government will take you seriously when you take yourself seriously. So if we, the citizens, go to bed, if we, the citizens, sometimes even begin to attack those putting their life on the line for our collective interest, and they begin to ask you, so what is your interest? Why do you hate this person so much? And all of that. I think if our government gets to know that, look, we as a people are serious about it. We want the government of Ghana to put pressure and some diplomatic more work into this process. But they will not just get up and act if nothing is happening. Sometimes when the pressure comes, you see some of the responses from the OSP, the Attorney General, and others when there is heat on them. So my point is, we shouldn't just go to bed also as a people. Whatever mild pressure, hard pressure that we can put on our duty bearers and tell them that, look, it shouldn't be just business as usual. There have been certain lapses in the past that allowed this man to go out, but there is a way to bring this person back. Get up and act.
Right.
We should be able to put that pressure and then hope that the leaders who are acting on our behalf will respond to it and act appropriately.
Manasseh, thank you. Lawyer Godwin Ejudi Tamaklo says, good morning, Alfred and your esteemed panelists. Tell Dr. Zato it should be like for like. Ken has charges filed against him in Ghanaian court. Abutrika has been indicted in the United States. It should be like for like. Bringing the Sedinab Tamaklo into this conversation, he says, is mischievous and diversionary. Red herring, Ken for Abutrika, like for like. That is what lawyer Eduji Tamaklo says. But in fact, on this particular issue, and people I bring in here because that argument of like for like was a question that was put to the Attorney General. We were trying to pull up the video earlier, but we have it, and this was his response to it. Take a look.
The principle of reciprocity, whether we should expect that the U.S. authorities, having taken some Ghanaians by way of extradition to the United States of America, will also, in exchange, reciprocate by extraditing Ken Ofori-Atta to Ghana. Now, the principle of reciprocity underlines extradition proceedings. And usually, without a bilateral treaty or a multilateral treaty arrangement that obligates a state to extradite persons accused of crime that are found within its territory to another country, usually extradition cannot take place. In the case of Ghana and the United States of America, there is a 1931 extradition treaty that was signed between the United States of America and Great Britain when Ghana was a colony of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, that treaty expired as far as the United Kingdom is concerned. So it's no longer applicable between the United States and the United Kingdom. But it has not expired. It was renewed when we became independent in 1957. And so it is still in existence between Ghana and the United States. Now, if you look at Article 3,
Attorney General, responding to this like for like reciprocal, proposal that has been made that, well, if we need Ken Ofori-Atta, then we are giving Abu Trika and others, then we should make that demand as well. That's his explanation to it.
Yeah. So, it's good. It's good. The key part we should be celebrating now is the fact that citizens, you see this Abu Trika argument, that citizens saying Abu Trika should be extradited on condition that Ofori-Atta will be brought, okay? Mm-hmm. Seems to me to have come from ordinary citizens who are not lawyers. Yes. And that's something we should be celebrating. On social media, people started raising that point. It doesn't appear to me that it's legal experts and political commentators who started it. And so I'm very happy about it. So it tells you that ordinary citizens are engaged. And when you have citizens engaged, then you generally will get better outcomes in democracy, right? Yeah, because then in that case, it helps in what we call the whole of society approach or whole of government approach, where government is doing or undertaking activities and brings on board the citizenry, because the citizenry form the nation. So where government is engaged on any activity and the citizens are not engaged, the citizens are not supporting, you won't get the best. So I like it. So let's continue to push. Let's continue to push. I remember more than 4 weeks ago, I mentioned here earlier that we would, in due course, organize a demonstration. So the argument that we should bring Ofori-Atta down as a quid pro quo, and that's the word the Americans like, quid pro quo, that's
something for something.
Something, yes. Yes, it's something that we should keep pushing because, and when we go on the demonstration, that's what I mentioned about more than 4 weeks ago when we were discussing this topic. The demonstration, the numbers, they will snap the numbers, they will cover the demonstration to the U.S. Embassy. When we demonstrate, go there peacefully and hand over a petition to the ambassador for onward transmission to the Attorney General of the U.S. and the Secretary of State, and in fact, President Donald Trump. They will look at the numbers that go for the demonstration, etc. Then they will understand that we understand that this extradition is as much political as legal. The legal alone doesn't cut it. Look, under U.S. law, you know that when the judge finishes the case certifying that Ofori-Atta can be extradited, the Secretary of State can look at other factors and say no. Under U.S. law, let's be very clear. The judge who will decide doesn't have the final say as to whether Ofori-Atta will come here or not. It's not for the judge. The judge is basically to look at the treaty and those things and decide that, oh yes, under the treaty, these things have been met. The lawyers will argue otherwise. I mean, all I'm saying is that no matter the proceedings, at the end of the day, the final decision from the courts is not the final decision to bring Ofori-Atta down. The final decision lies with the Secretary of State. That's the equivalent of our foreign minister, right? Right? So once we begin to engage and they see that, oh, there's a lot of politics in this whole extradition process, etc., the Americans will take us more seriously.
That will not dovetail into political persecution.
Yes.
Perception.
So
Because
we are
then
coming
that
to
would be
that.
a flag, a red
Yes.
flag.
Yes, yes, because the political persecution you've mentioned is one of the things the Secretary of State can use. Yes, he can look at it, even though the courts will also be looking at it. I remember I mentioned earlier that in one of the extradition cases I did a few years ago, well, now it's over 8 years, or about 10 years ago, Professor Atifa, the UK court didn't bring down the person because the report we wrote, we went to the prisons, looked at it, and then wrote a report. The prison conditions in Ghana were so bad, and that's one of the things. They didn't bring down the person. So this thing about political persecution is something the Secretary of State can use and not bring down Ofori-Atta. Of course, we are not, it's not a political persecution, but we're just making the point that under law, the Secretary of State, he is a politician, so he's allowed to use humanitarian grounds, political persecution, that's the witch hunting thing, statute of limitations, and many other things. It's a discretion. So let's start it this way.
Right.
It's a discretion that the Secretary of State, their foreign minister, will exercise after the court is done. So it's not just a legal battle. It's also a political battle. So there are two battles to be fought. After the court is done, there's also a political one. And that's how come we have to arrange our ducks in a row early. We have to, like the wise maidens in the Bible, we have to go with extra oil. So we are not just going to the legal battle. We, across the table here, and the actors, the netizens, we have to start the political fight early by starting our demonstrations, etc., to tell the American government that, look, this one is very political, so they better get it right. We will not allow that Ofori-Atta doesn't come here, but we will keep extraditing. And I like Solomon Wusu's word. We keep extraditing little twinkle stars, right? You see, so they must bring the Ofori-Atta. And let's not forget this, that, you see, in the US, their economy is not in the best of shapes. They too, they are struggling. They have cost of living issues, etc. And you see how recently Donald Trump had to capitulate to the Saudis because he needs investment. So the death of Jamal Khashoggi, Biden, they were raising human rights issues a lot under Biden. Donald Trump sees actually he wants the Saudis to continue to invest in the US. So he has to throw away human rights consideration. I mean, long story short, to attract investments, Donald Trump does a lot more than just legal, there's legal considerations. So so the argument I'm making here is that because Ofori-Atta has invested heavily in the US, there is that key consideration. Okay. He has invested heavily.
It's heavily.
You see, so it makes it difficult. And he has also applied for permanent residence. Remember, some weeks ago, I mentioned that my information is that he has applied to be a permanent resident. That he's on his way to becoming a citizen again. He was once a citizen, and then he had to give it up, etc., became finance minister. He wants to become a citizen again, so he's applied to be a permanent resident. So the matters are getting complex. So was it Abdullah who mentioned or somebody? Manasseh also mentioned the diplomacy. So we have to begin to negotiate diplomatically how we will bring him down. It's not just the courtroom. Right. The courtroom, in this case, I think that, let's just put it this way. The diplomatic negotiations, the political, and of course, it's also the diplomacy will dovetail and can cover the whole of the politics as well.
Okay.
And that is where we should be looking at. That right. Ofori-Atta has investments in the US. And when it comes to investment, Donald Trump, as president of the US, would want to protect investors, like how he's done with the Saudis. He's thrown Jamal Khashoggi under the bus. It's like, oh no, it's not about human rights. He needs investment. So it's a complex matter. It's a very serious, complex matter. That's why we have to start by mobilizing our citizens to send them a petition that, look, we understand this thing. We understand the game. We are no longer as naive as those days, so that we'll leave this conversation to a few people on TV. In actual fact, we've shown, our citizens have shown the way. They started it on the net, that before Abu Trika goes, our government should get assurances that the US government will also bring that Ofori-Atta, notwithstanding the millions of dollars Ofori-Atta has invested in the US.
All right. What about if what the AG is saying is only to go by? If we leave this to the process, then it's going to take quite a while. We have a long process, and there's been that advocacy for other avenues to be explored, so as to get Ken Ofori-Atta to come answer the questions being asked on the basis of accountability, accounting to the people for the power and the resources given to him. Should it be one that the AG should take into cognizance of, at least because of his own position, that if it is left to just the extradition request, we'll have to wait for quite a while?
The Attorney General has not hidden the fact that this is going to take some time. And he has told the whole country. But what is important is that he has started the process. On other things like we should exchange people for others, I don't think that is within the remit of the Attorney General. That could be diplomatic. And maybe the Foreign Affairs could trigger those things. But on any day, truth is important. Being candid to the facts are important. And for me, I'll stand on the side of a drunkard who speaks the truth than the person who goes to church to pray every day and lies. Why am I saying this? Sedinam was convicted under the Akufo-Addo administration. When she was accused, or when she was standing trial, there was no extradition request. When she was convicted, there was no extradition request. At that time, we have an Attorney General. Today, another government has come. And this government and its Attorney General has made requests for bringing back Sedinam to serve the remaining of her term here. And what are we hearing? What kind of convoluted analysis and convoluted comparisons are this? Who bears the brunt of not bringing Sedinam? Is it the previous government and its Attorney General, or the current administration and its Attorney General? So that's why me, on any day, I'll stand on the side of a drunkard who speaks the truth than a churchgoer who comes back and lies to the people. But the issue about Ken Ofori-Atta is this. We are accusing him of a number of things. One of it is matters relating to SML, matters relating to conflict of interest, sometimes outright corruption. IOCO and SOP have provisions in their law that says that you can freeze a man's property when these matters are being investigated. Ofori-Atta is using the resources that we claim were wrongly or ill-gotten to fight us in the US court. What do? Don't you cut off the oxygen? Forget about his investment in the US, but in Ghana, can't you cut off the oxygen? Because those resources are what he's using. How many Ghanaians, if they want to be extradited, can afford top lawyers in the US? So I'm asking the authorities, the IOCO and the SOP, what is delaying the freezing
of Ofori-Atta's properties. We all agree that he needs to come back home and account. But is it also the case that, because me, as I am in road safety now, I believe that I am serving the people of this country with all my heart. So it will be difficult for me to be thinking about preparing my exit from this country. You get my point? So is it that Ofori-Atta went into this office with a criminal mind and planned his movement? These are questions for the gods, some for the beasts. I don't get it. I don't get the way he was able.
You didn't believe in the beast or the god.
I don't get. You see, the way the man planned is the whole thing. It's difficult for me. So he knew that when I was taking SIC insurance matters to Enterprise Life, it was wrong, but I'll still do it. Or he knows when I was doing the haircut, it was wrong, so I'll still do it. I don't get it, but we are where we are, and sometimes I tend to agree with Martin, but he's too hard on the special prosecutor. This man shouldn't have left in the first place.
Exactly.
But that one is not
Ofori-Atta shouldn't have left. So
No, but the reason why I don't support him wholeheartedly is that we were dealing with a government whose apparatchiks were unstoppable. But I hear him say that we could have raised an alarm.
Yes.
But how it won't stop him from going.
Oh, no, it would have.
It won't stop.
All right, gentlemen,
It won't
thank you.
stop. It won't stop.
No.
Right.
So for me,
Mr.
I think that
if you had
Right.
put it on TV3.
how will you go to the airport and stop him?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
So I think that there's more to these matters than just meet the eye.
Right.